In the material world, everyone is trying to get some material happiness. But as soon as we get some material happiness, there is also material distress. In the material world, one cannot have unadulterated happiness. Any kind of happiness one has is contaminated by distress also. For example, if we want to drink milk, then we have to bother to maintain a cow and keep her fit to supply milk. Drinking milk is very nice. It is also pleasure. But for the sake of drinking milk, one has to accept so much trouble. The yoga system, as here stated by the Lord, is meant to end all material happiness and material distress. The best yoga, as taught in Bhagavad Gita by Krishna, is Bhakti Yoga. It is also mentioned in the Gita that one should try to be tolerant and not be disturbed by material happiness or distress. Of course, one may say that he is not disturbed by material happiness, but he does not know that just after one enjoys so-called material happiness, material distress will follow. This is the law of the material world. Lord Kapila states that the yoga system is the science of the spirit. One practices yoga in order to attain perfection on the spiritual platform. There is no question of material happiness or distress. It is transcendental. Lord Kapila will eventually explain how it is transcendental, but the preliminary introduction is given here. So Devahuti has asked some questions from her son Kapila. Kapila is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is referred to as Sri Bhagavan, Sri Bhagavan Vacha. In the Bhagavad Gita also, the author Vyasadeva is referring to Krishna as Bhagavan. So the answer immediately given by the Lord to Devahuti is that which is the highest yoga system? So 3 characteristics of the highest yoga system are described here in this verse. Yoga system which relates to the Lord and the individual soul. Yoga Adhyatmika Pumsam. The yoga system relating to the soul, the relationship between the soul and the Supreme Lord, which is meant for the ultimate benefit of the living entity, Nishreyasayame. Ultimate benefit. Shreyas. Shreyas is different from prayas. Prayas is immediate benefit. And Shreyas is ultimate benefit. So this yoga system is meant for the ultimate benefit of the living entity, and it causes detachment from all happiness and distress in the material world. Atyantoparatir yatra dukkhasya cha sukhasya cha. This yoga system is described as the highest yoga system in this particular verse. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining in the purport that everyone is trying to get some material happiness in this world, but as soon as there is material happiness, it is followed by material distress that cannot be avoided. It is the law of the material world. It is not possible to have unadulterated happiness, material happiness. Now this is not easy to get convinced, especially when under the spell of illusion somebody thinks, I am very happy, I am quite okay, I am comfortable. So then such a person, it's very difficult to understand this fact of the nature of material happiness. It is always followed by material distress. It's a fact that material happiness and distress are both relative. That's a fact. But then, still, even if somebody thinks that after all it's relative, it depends on how we perceive or how we try to accept different situations or different experiences as those giving us happiness or distress. Still, ultimately, there is material distress, and that cannot be denied. That cannot be denied. Under the spell of illusion, somebody may consider some distressful condition as not so distressful, or may even make some mental adjustment to think that he or she is always happy, always peaceful, always undisturbed. But that is artificial. Just like some foolish people, if they have too much of anxiety or worry, then they take to some intoxication. They consume some intoxication. And under the influence of the intoxicant, they think, oh, now no more anxiety, no more worry. It's all finished, it's all gone. So instead of consuming some intoxicant, somebody can make some adjustment in the mind and then think, oh, now my problem is solved, or now my worry is gone, now my distress is over. So these adjustments or these artificial ways of counteracting distress or trying to be away from distress or trying to get out of distress, these are all simply temporary patchwork solutions. Ultimately, a person has to face distress. And if somehow somebody keeps dodging Maya, how long? Till death comes. Till death comes. Even before death, there may be some big disaster or natural calamity. Or if somehow somebody his karma is good not to undergo any major calamity or disaster before death comes, death is sure, death is certain. And death is going to be a very big calamity in one's life. Even the greatest of philosophers, even the Creator himself, the topmost personality in this universe, Brahma, even he is afraid of death. What to speak of others? So, death is one reality or fact which people want to forget about it or set aside the reality of death. In this way, the power of illusion is so strong that we never really want to make a perfect or a complete solution to this problem of happiness and distress. Because there is no unadulterated happiness, we take it like there is happiness and distress, both of which are ultimately undesirable. That is why Lord Kapila is telling here, this yoga system causes detachment from all happiness and distress in the material world. Somebody may say, yeah, I want to be detached from distress. Why should I be detached from happiness? Because there is no such thing as unadulterated material happiness. There is no such thing. That's why it's called dvandva, duality. Duality means both have to be there. You cannot have one thing without the other. Happiness and distress. Sukha, dukkha. You can't have only sukha. That is not possible. There is no such thing as only sukha. So therefore, the scriptures say, on the material platform or in the material world, in material existence, there is always sukha and dukkha. Now the Bhagavatam very nicely says that as far as the sukha is concerned, even if somebody says, okay, I will accept some dukkha as long as there is sukha also. Yeah, that's a fact. There is no only dukkha again. As we say there is no only sukha, it's also a fact that there's also no only dukkha. There is always dukkha and sukha. Dukkha is followed by sukha, sukha is followed by dukkha. It's a cycle. Sukha, dukkha. Cycle. So, since there is sukha, I will tolerate or I will somehow manage to experience this dukkha because it is followed by sukha. So, that sukha also is analyzed in the scriptures. What is that sukha? That sukha is simply some contact of the senses with the sense objects. Samsparshaja bhoga. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, Yehi samsparshaja bhoga. The pleasure of the contact of the senses with the sense object. Now it is just a feeling, a temporary feeling, an instantaneous feeling, a sensation. That sensation of happiness or even distress for that matter, the same thing. The contact of the senses and sense objects. Distress, happiness or distress. It is simply one big illusion. One big illusion. So happiness is illusory happiness. It's illusory happiness. Its characteristic is it won't last. It won't last forever. It is not permanent. It doesn't have any intrinsic pleasure in it. It is not intrinsically pleasurable. Why? For a simple reason. Let us say, if we say eating is pleasurable, then every time you want pleasure, you keep on eating. As much pleasure as you want, you keep on eating. But then very soon you will discover there is this law of satiation, that anything you derive happiness from, it cannot give you continuously happiness, it cannot give you unlimited happiness, it cannot give you as much happiness as you want. Very soon it will become very, very distasteful, detestable. So that's why the principle or the law of the material world is happiness is always followed by distress. Always followed by distress. So even the happiness is illusory happiness. So therefore a wise person, Bhagavad Gita says, Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate, is simply the source of all miseries. That's all. This sense contact, happiness through sense contact, is simply a source of misery. Adyantavanta kaunteya, they have a beginning and an end. Therefore, they are always temporary. Nateshu ramate buddhaha. An intelligent person does not really take pleasure in such happiness due to sense contact. So, intelligent person understands that happiness with reference to the senses, which is simply senses coming in contact with sense objects. This is Prahlad Maharaj's advice to his friends. Sukham aindriyakam daitya deha yogena dehina sarvatra labhyate daivat yatha dukkham ayatnataha. So, Prahlad Maharaj is telling that this type of happiness with reference to this body, or the body means senses, that it is available according to the body, it's available sarvatra labhyate. It's available in all forms of body, all species of life. It's called Deha Yoga. As soon as we get a material body, yesterday we heard this, there is always some quota of happiness and distress. It is stored up in the body and it is released according to Kala. Yesterday, very nicely it was explained in the class. So, that stored up Sukha Dukkha is available in all species of life. All species of life. It is just appears different because of the power of the illusory energy. We may consider that our grade of happiness is much, much refined, superior as the grade of happiness of an animal. But whether an animal is enjoying its situation with reference to its own senses, or we as humans enjoy with reference to our senses, both are simply this Deha Yoga. Deha Sukha is Deha Yoga. It is with reference to the particular body that we have. Just like even among humans, children enjoy one way, they take pleasure in some toys, but the adults cannot enjoy the same way, do not enjoy the same way. The same things which were pleasurable when we were children are no longer pleasurable for us. So, which brings us to the question, what is absolute happiness? Relative versus absolute. This question always arises in an intelligent person's mind. Intelligence means to inquire about what is absolute. absolute truth, absolute happiness. So, absolute happiness is unadulterated happiness, is permanent happiness, is continuous happiness, is unconditional happiness. So many attributes we can think about. No such absolute happiness is there in the material world, on the material platform. In sense pleasure, there is no such absolute happiness. In sense contact, there is no absolute happiness. That absolute happiness is a subject matter of the Vedic scriptures. Vedic scriptures are talking about absolute happiness. That's why the Vedas are talking about Brahma Sukha. Brahma Sukha. In the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam, Lord Rishabdev, incarnation of the Supreme Lord, another incarnation, he is instructing his sons. He says that this sense pleasure, which ignorant, less intelligent, foolish people try to enjoy, is available even for the stool-eating hogs. And an intelligent person should never endeavor for getting such happiness, which is automatically there with a person acquiring a particular type of body. Sometimes people who have made lot of material advancement, they are proud of their technology or scientific achievements, that, oh, now we have got a great deal of comfort, and because of that we are enjoying a high standard of happiness. It's actually the power of the illusory energy which makes us believe like that, or makes us think like that. It's the same illusion which makes the hog think that in a filthy place, the hog is thinking that he is very happy and is enjoying life, though surrounded by filth in a most abominable condition. Same way, even human beings, befooled by Maya, think that when they have so much of technological advancement, due to which there is elaborate arrangement for some bodily comfort, then they think that, oh, now we are very happy, we are enjoying life, a superior quality of life. But this is another way of getting befooled by Maya. The same illusory happiness, the same illusory happiness. As far as the quality of happiness is concerned, there is no difference. There is no difference between the pleasure enjoyed by an animal or a hog and the pleasure enjoyed by a human being when it comes to contact of the material senses with the sense objects. There is no difference. It is the same phenomena. Even the demigods who enjoy in the heavenly planets, the demigods, they are far, far more advanced materially. They have a beautiful body. They have a very long duration of life as compared to humans on the earth. They have so much of knowledge, intelligence. They have very refined culture as compared to the humans on the earth. But even they, when they enjoy life on the heavenly planets, when it comes to sense pleasure, it's the same. There is no difference. Bhagavatam describes the experience of one great king, Yayati. Yayati was the emperor of the world, and he happened to marry the daughter of Shukracharya, Devayani. And he, in order to enjoy with Devayani, he happened to go to the gardens in the heavenly planets. And he tried to enjoy in so many ways. And finally, he came to the conclusion that this trying to satisfy one's desire for material pleasure, which is called lust, trying to satisfy this lust is simply an attempt to extinguish a fire by pouring ghee into it. It's never going to be extinguished. It's never going to be extinguished. It is a futile attempt. So he had this realization. And then he took to Krishna consciousness and became a first-class devotee. So the same instruction is given everywhere in the Bhagavatam, in the scriptures. Give up this business of trying to enjoy material happiness. Give up this business. Instead, simply try to seek Brahma Sukha, spiritual happiness. Spiritual happiness. This spiritual happiness is completely different. First of all, there is no spiritual happiness you can get on the material platform. Because people, they seek some happiness again based on their ignorance or a wrong understanding of what is happiness. They try to seek the same material happiness even in doing some so-called spiritual practice. Just like they practice yoga and they think by yoga we can get some spiritual happiness. And what they try to achieve through yoga practice is some yoga siddhi, some mystic power. But again, through mystic power also, whatever happiness one can get, the same thing. Instead of some gross senses coming in contact with sense objects, it's the subtle senses one tries to enjoy through subtle senses. And the happiness, the quality of happiness is the same. There is no difference. The same illusory happiness. So, the yoga system, the ultimate aim is not to seek another variety of this material happiness, but rather give up this business of seeking material happiness or avoiding material distress. Therefore, the real yoga system or the highest yoga system causes detachment from all happiness and distress. It does not mean that this highest yoga system you are not having any happiness at all. No. It gives you the highest happiness, the absolute happiness, Brahma Sukha. That Brahma Sukha is on the spiritual platform. Is on the spiritual platform. One has to rise above the material platform. Come to the spiritual platform. So this chanting of Hare Krishna, chanting of the holy name of the Supreme Lord. This Bhakti Yoga system of chanting Hare Krishna, it immediately elevates us to the spiritual platform. Simply by coming in contact with Krishna, along with his internal potency, Hare Krishna, immediately you are elevated to the spiritual platform. Through the other yoga systems, one has to gradually elevate oneself from the material platform to the spiritual platform. It's a very slow, gradual process. It's a tedious process. Either through cultivation of knowledge or through performing austerities, or by gradually elevating oneself from the earthly planet to the higher planets, ultimately reaching the Brahma Loka. And at the end of Brahma's life, along with Brahma, go to the spiritual world and then try to enter the spiritual planet, Vaikuntha Loka. Any of these processes is very, 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 very slow. Bhakti Yoga is very fast. It's very fast. In fact, Bhakti Yoga is the only process where instantaneously you can be elevated to the spiritual platform. Instantaneously. But the difficulty for us is, yes, it's a fact, if I say Hare Krishna, immediately I am elevated to the spiritual platform. But to remain on the spiritual platform, that is the difficulty. Because we are a creature of habit. We are habituated to stay on the material platform. So we cannot remain on the spiritual platform artificially or simply by some adjustment. There is attachment to the material platform, the material way of living, this material happiness. There is attachment. Even though we may understand by studying the scriptures, by hearing from saintly persons, by hearing the Bhagavatam, we may understand we have to give up this material happiness. But simply if we understand and decide, let me give up material happiness, it doesn't happen. Deep within our heart, we have developed this knot of material existence, ahankara. So that knot has to be cut to pieces. The attachments have to be completely cut. And the process of Bhakti Yoga is meant for cutting off these knots of material existence. Vidyate hridaya granthi chidyante sarva samshaya kshiyante chasya karmani. It's a process. Bhakti Yoga is a process. It takes time. But if we practice very nicely, every day chanting Hare Krishna, follow all the rules and regulations, then we can cut off all the attachments and then we can elevate ourselves and remain on the spiritual platform. By practice, by detachment, by transcendental knowledge. All these are required. So they are more or less automatic if you practice bhakti. Automatically, janayati ashu vairagyam jnanam cha yadahitukam. Vasudeve bhagavati bhakti yoga prayojitaha. If you practice bhakti yoga, then automatically jnana vairagya will very quickly develop. And then what is the advantage of jnana and vairagya? That you elevate yourself to the spiritual platform, you can remain on the spiritual platform. You will not be pulled down. If you practice bhakti yoga and and develop this jnana and vairagya, then you can remain on the spiritual platform. And when you remain on the spiritual platform, then you can actually try to experience what is this Brahma Sukha. On the spiritual platform, there is no material happiness, there is no material distress, there is only pure, unadulterated happiness. That's guaranteed. That there is no endeavor even for that. There is no endeavor. So that is the spiritual platform. That spiritual platform, very easily, a devotee can elevate himself or herself. Simply by chanting Hare Krishna, you can elevate yourself. But practice to remain on the spiritual platform, not be pulled down by all these material attachments and material entanglement. We are pulled down again and again and again. So we have to cut off these strings of attachment. And even same Bhakti Yoga, there is no other process required for cutting off the attachments. The Bhakti Yoga itself will cut off. That's what Lord Kapila will now describe in this yoga system, how to cut off these attachments, how to get enlightenment. All the misconceptions about what is happiness or what is meant for my ultimate good, Shreyas. We do not have understanding of what is meant for my ultimate good, because material life means prayers always. Immediate benefit. We don't think of ultimate benefit. So that knowledge about ultimate benefit, that is also possible through practice of Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti Yoga will give us everything required. So that is what Lord Kapila will explain in the future verses. I'll stop here. Vrintaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.